Hello and welcome. Today we begin our show with the African Union siding with Nigeria over US President Donald Trump's genocide claim. Days after the remarks were made, the regional bloc has come out in support of Nigeria and has rejected the Republican leader's claim. The group's chairperson said there is no genocide in northern Nigeria. He even cautioned that one should think twice before making such comments.
There is no genocide in northern Nigeria. I think the complexity of the situation in northern Nigeria should, push us think twice before, declaring such or making such statements. The first victims of Boko Haram are Muslims, not Christians. The first victims, and I'm saying it with documented references. So the complexity in the northern part of Nigeria should not be taken, that easily.
Nigeria reels under terror attacks linked to the Boko Haram group. The violence has killed tens of thousands of people over the past 15 years. However, human rights experts have said that most Boko Haram victims have been Muslims. The Nigerian government has vowed to fight terrorism and engage with the world diplomatically. The country's president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has rejected Trump's claim and reaffirmed that the country's constitution guarantees religious freedom.
The task ahead is immense. We are engaging the world diplomatically, and we assure all of you that we will, defeat terrorism in this country.
Tinubu's affirmation to fight terrorism in the country followed Trump's grave accusations. Earlier this month, he said that Christians are being killed in Nigeria in large numbers. He asked the Defense Department to prepare for possible fast military action if Nigeria fails to stop the killings. He also threatened to stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities.
And Trump also warned the Nigerian government to take quick action, adding, and I quote, "The Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay." Trump's warning came after his administration added Nigeria to the countries of particular concern list over its alleged religious freedom violations. Other nations on that list include China, Myanmar, North Korea, Russia, and Pakistan. Nigeria has 200 ethnic groups practicing Christianity, Islam, and other traditional religions. The country has a long history of peaceful coexistence. However, it has also seen flare-ups of violence among groups. These clashes are often aggravated due to ethnic divisions or conflict over limited resources and add to the violence in the country, which stems from the growing insurgency in northern Nigeria. And for more on this story, we have with us Chris Kwaja, who is a political analyst from Nigeria. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Let's first look at the significance of this show of support from the African Union. What does it mean?
The African Union typifies what you have in Europe, like the European Union, and typical of such organizations or unions, the member states of these unions are driven by the principle of collective security, which means they are bounded by a collective security agenda. And from the perspective of the African Union, any foreign intervention into Africa is one that, again, will impact on the sovereignty of member states of the African Union. And that's the perspective with which the African Union is engaging the Trump issue. So sovereignty is the focus, the solidarity or the show of support that the African Union is giving to Nigeria is born out of that protection and respect of the sovereignty of the Nigerian state, and by extension, the Africa as a continent in general. But that is not to say that across Africa there are no cases of mass atrocities where many member states of the African Union have shown increased inability to contain or contend with rising insecurity that are transnational in nature. They are not just localized to the specific member states of the African Union, but they have transnational character. For instance, Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger are all affected or impacted by the situation we see in the Lake Chad with respect to the activities of Boko Haram. So that's what we see with the African Union.
Yes. And looking back at Trump's Christian killing statements, could this continental unity potentially backfire for Africa, given that it is such a contentious topic and one Trump has spoken about multiple times?
Africa is a very unique country in terms of its makeup. It is a very diverse continent. We have Christians, we have Muslims, we have other religious groups. So at the heart of its search for the management of diversity is the whole question of identity, and religion is one of such. It is easy for people to mobilize, to instrumentalize or weaponize religion. We've seen, for instance, cases where communities that are largely Muslims in the Northwest and the Northeast were killed by members of Boko Haram or the bandits that are also Muslims. We've seen communities that are almost 100% Christians within Benue and Plateau also attacked or killed by suspected bandits that are believed to be Muslims. So at whatever level, even if we don't look at genocide, we are talking about mass atrocities. Mass atrocities in the context of how defenseless communities are attacked, killed, maimed, displaced, their livelihood destroyed by organized criminal groups. And the focus is that regardless of who is killed, Nigerian citizens are killed. The Nigerian state has a primary responsibility of protecting lives and property. But for the victims of this insurgency or banditry or organized crime, and people or communities or groups who speak for these communities, the intensity of what they see in terms of the huge humanitarian crisis that follow up these attacks created the conditions for this label of genocide, because they see a whole community of one ethnic group or one religious group being attacked by suspected criminals from the other religious group. And typical of Trump, for instance, whose election, again, was made possible by the role that the evangelical Christians played in the US, they also have interest, not just in Nigeria, but other religious groups across the world when it comes to how these religions that they also are part of are affected by either governance or the activities of criminal groups, just like we see in Nigeria.
And Chris, finally, of course, Donald Trump has made these threats. He's called for a plan for quick action, potentially in Nigeria. What would US military action in Africa mean for the relationships between African nations and the US? This, of course, amid growing cooperation in the continent with both Russia and China.
It is clear that there are two trends that will impact on a possible US military action in Nigeria. The first is geostrategic, looking at the role of China in Africa, and China sees the United States as a competitor in Africa. By allowing a military intervention by the United States, it means the United States will contest or contend with China, and China sees itself as the most visible actor in Africa right now. The second is that what will be the implication of a military intervention? There are two sides to that story. The first is that people look at Afghanistan, Libya, and Pakistan and other countries where military interventions have occurred. And the question they're asking is, what has been the story of US-led military intervention in those countries? The second group is saying the Nigerian state has shown quite clearly that it is unable to deal with the rising cases of insecurity in the country. And it should be humble enough to request for military assistance from countries that are willing to help, like the United States. My point is that while we allow for a military intervention in Nigeria, I think the focus should be more diplomatic, in the sense that US military assistance should come to Nigeria through assistance. The Nigerian government should be able to clearly state the areas of need, and this support should be given to the Nigerian government for the Nigerian government to address the rising security challenges that it confronts. I don't, as an individual, support a direct military intervention in the context of what we saw in Afghanistan or Libya, but supporting Nigeria through equipment provisioning and other logistical support like IC technology will be a major force multiplier in addressing this issue with proper monitoring. Because we've seen also that within the military, there has been cases of collusion of moles within the military, the Nigerian military providing intelligence to these criminal groups. And that has made it difficult for the Nigerian military to effectively contain the activities of criminals and other insurgent groups in the country.
Chris, thank you ever so much for your time and for joining us on the programme.
Thank you very much.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point.
Well, we've got all three just for you. This is Firstpost Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.